and thank you for tuning into this Engerati Studio interview at Asian Utility Week 2016. I'm Denise, and with me is Igor Leroux, and he's the Director of Business Development APAC at AutoGrid Systems. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio today.
My pleasure, Denise.
We're going to be discussing distributed energy and the opportunities with regards to that in the Asian region. Let's start off with that. What are the opportunities here in Asia?
Well, I think there's two macro opportunities. The first one is around resiliency, microgrids. I think there's a lot of backup generators that are installed, and there can be great value creation by turning those into microgrids, adding additional resources, and be able to provide grid services when the grid functions.
Right, okay.
So that's the first one. The second one is more around renewable integration. Now that solar and wind are cheaper than fossil fuel in many cases, I think it's become a no-brainer for countries to really roll out aggressively. And so we'll need a lot of flexibility to deal with the intermittency issue. And I think distributed energy resources are going to play a much bigger role in providing this flexibility. So things like storage systems, flexible loads, combined heat and power plants are going to provide a lot of that flexibility needed to accommodate intermittency.
Right. Let's discuss the challenges that exist at the moment and how distributed energy can resolve these issues.
Yeah. Well, the challenges are, as in many other places in the world, this is not an Asia-specific problem, is the regulatory framework. So the basic is a fair, predictable framework that investors can count upon to make their returns. That's not always the case. We've seen Australia, for example, flip-flopping on a lot of issues like the carbon tax, renewable energy certificates, and feed-in tariffs also recently. So those are things that are not good for capital deployment overall. Now, when it comes to distributed energy resources, I think it's very important to recognize the temporal and the locational value of the resource. And very often, unfortunately, we have fixed tariff, fixed feed-in tariffs, nationwide DR market. So those things don't really recognize the value of having flexibility in a specific part of the grid, and therefore don't fully incentivize the deployment.
Are there any particular opportunities or any exciting developments that AutoGrid is really looking into at the moment?
Absolutely, absolutely. I am very, very excited to see what is going to happen in Japan, what is going to come out of Japan in the next 5 years. The government there has really understood that distributed energy resource will play a major role in their power system operation. And so they're aggressively helping their national power companies to upgrade their operational capabilities in the front of virtual power plants. METI has a specific program for this that is on the market at the moment. I think great things will come from there.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Distributed energy. Clearly there's a lot of opportunities involved here, but when it comes to utilities, do you think utilities in this region specifically see distributed energy as a threat more than an opportunity?
Well, I'll be controversial here. I think that it's more of a threat. If you look at things very objectively, distributed energy resources are very often owned by third parties. That means that it's part of the revenue streams that would naturally occur to the utilities that is now potentially diverted to third parties. So yeah, I mean, if you were to make an analogy, I think that it's like the utilities were on a treadmill exercising and things were comfortable and cozy, and someone came and dialed up the speed. Exactly. So now they have to run faster to keep up or fall off. That said, I think there's a silver lining here. I think that by engaging with their customers on more complex value proposition that include distributed energy resources, the utilities can be better prepared to expand outside of their historical boundaries. So very simply, that could be the convergence of power, gas, communications, water, but also on a more ambitious front, it could be the whole smart home ecosystem and all the associated services. So I think that by getting more in tune with their customers and being able to deploy those complex value propositions that are at the advantage of their customers, they're preparing themselves for a more interesting future, more profitable.
Is there preparation going on at the moment, or do you think they're still a little bit off the beaten track?
There is preparation, not everywhere, but with the utilities and the energy service providers that I've had the pleasure to interact with over the last year. I would say that definitely a lot of them are thinking about this.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we step in the right direction, of course. So the importance of low risk, fast implementation and rapid deployment, how can this be made possible?
Okay, so I think there's a short answer to this, and using our software solutions would be that. But the longer answer is, so you said low risk?
Yeah, low risk, fast implementation.
So low risk, definitely not trying to guess what are going to be the winning protocols or the winning hardware solutions, and keep the options open by selecting a solution that is hardware agnostic and that supports a lot of protocols.
Right.
Fast implementation, I think it's very important to go for a cloud-based solution because that allows you for a much faster deployment time. And I would say that here the best way to test that is to look for someone who's already deployed with different utilities and already had to do that, integration work. Also on that front, I would say not try to build it in-house. It's incredibly difficult to get to a functional and scalable virtual power plant application or distributed energy management system. At AutoGrid, we have had 30 world-class engineers working in this for 5 years to get where we are today. I think that it's really important to go for a cloud-based solution. It's a lot faster to deploy. And quite important is not try to reinvent the wheel and build a whole solution in-house. It's very, very difficult to build a virtual power plant or a distributed energy management system from scratch. At AutoGrid, we have 30 really world-class engineers working on this for 5 years to get where we are today. So you can gain a lot of time by working with a vendor. And the advice here would be look for a vendor that has deployed at scale. The functionalities are relatively easy to implement. Getting a solution that can work with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of devices is a lot harder.
Yeah, all right.
And the last one?
And the last one is rapid deployment.
Rapid deployment, yes. Here I would say that for the device, it's quite important to have a software that has strong system of record and device registration functionalities, so that the whole commissioning process can be very simple for the teams on the field, or potentially so simple that customers can do it on their own through a web portal.
All right. My very last question to you, and you've probably answered part of it. What would be your final advice to the energy sector in this region in particular?
Well, I wouldn't want to give so many advice. I'll do it to the regulators, and that would really be trying to push back on network augmentation investments on the grid. I think that you start to see a lot of very interesting use cases around North America, or really starting out in Australia, where distributed energy resources and flexibility in general can be used to deal with peak demand growth in a much more effective way.
Sound advice. Thanks, Igor, for joining us in the studio. I hope the rest of the event is a good one for you. And to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning into this session. If you wanted to gain more insight into Asia Utility Week, please have a look at our playlist, which is on our website, engerati.com. Thank you.